What's up, y'all? She from Legacy Hustle here. I have a little request of you. If you truly appreciate what we're trying to do here and you enjoy the show, the sharing, the transparency, and the insights, as well as the inspiration we bring you with each and every episode, I need you to help us out as well by supporting. Go ahead and subscribe, like, comment, follow, and review as we work to get the word out to more people about the show. Also, please consider sharing the show with your entire network. Thank you. Enjoy the show. This is Legacy Hustle, a show that highlights and amplifies everyday people from the Black diaspora and the product or service that will either impact the generations that precede them, the generations that will follow them, or a specific targeted community between the two. We use the word legacy and duality describing not only the solution that's been created, but to also highlight the personal impact on the guest's own personal circles and family, given the wealth generation and creation. The show will explore what their business is, how they got it off the ground, and trials and tribulations experienced on their journey to Legacy Hustle, in an effort to both inspire and educate you, our listeners, in terms of being able to motivate you to hopefully pursue your own. I'm Sheed, I'll be your host, and in this episode we'll be talking to AV of AV Does What and University of Dope. AV and I went to school together many moons ago, undergrad in Connecticut. Shout outs to Central Connecticut State University. AV is a do-it-yourself expert and creator of avdoeswhat.com. What began as a traditional do-it-yourself blog has grown into a lifestyle platform that includes crafts, upcycled furniture, and of course pop culture. As a digital host for HGTV Handmade, along with appearances in Forbes, Bustle, The Pioneer Woman, and BuzzFeed, AV is determined to help thrifty millennials realize life is better when you do it yourself. AV is also the creator of University of Dope, an exciting and thought-provoking card game that celebrates hip-hop culture, the first of its kind. Let's get this episode started so that you can hear straight from AV how she started on both of those paths and where they're at today. All right, today we have AV with us. AV, really appreciate you being here to help our legacy hustlers appreciate and understand who you are, the dope things that you've created, and just taking us on that journey. So we would
Thank you for having me.
No problem, of course. Thank you for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about AV Does What and University of Dope?
Well, I mean, AV Does What? I'm an influencer. So AV does what? A lot. I do a lot of things, but primarily it's DIY crafts. And I'm also a digital host for HGTV and University of Dope. It is a disrespectful party game for hip hop lovers. So I love to tell people to bring both together. It's if Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg had a baby, it would be me. Like that's, and then when I say it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It wraps up a nice clean bow.
Let's take a step back. So let's dive a little bit more into AV Does What, right? And I really appreciate, how you shared the idea of effectively Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg having a baby, and that'll be you. Your energy has always been lit, right? So for our listeners, AV and I went to undergrad together. And so I've just seen her for many years, always bringing amazing energy, always thinking outside the box on a matter of different things, right? So to see AV Does What come into existence didn't surprise me. But what led to you saying, all right, you know what? I'm going to take this series of passions that I have and create this brand out of it.
Well, for AV Does What, I tell people I am an accidental influencer. When I started, influencer was not even a word. It wasn't a thing. TikTok didn't exist. Instagram was it was newer. And my background is in film and television. I did props and set decorating for 10 years. That's what I went to school for. That's where, my focus was. And unfortunately, during those 10 years, my father passed away. And I needed to figure out my life. And everyone will always ask me like, AV, what don't you do? Because you're always in something, just like how you just refer, like you're always just doing something. And it's like, what don't I do? Let's figure it out. AV does what? And it's like I said, it's me figuring out life until, no one ever has it figured out, right? So we can ride this thing to the end. But with that, my father, he was in construction, taught me how to work with my hands, and like I mentioned, I was doing props and set decorating. So it just made sense. I started a DIY blog. It wasn't to be an influencer, but people started doing my tutorials, and then more opportunities came, and it was just like, wait a minute, okay, this is a thing. I can make a career out of this. OMG. And then it's kind of like been going on since then. And with University of Dope, well, you didn't ask me that yet, so I'm gonna wait. I'm not gonna jump the gun.
Yeah, no. And so just taking a step back and really sharing a little bit more in terms of the DIY stuff, what sort of DIY stuff do you kind of portray or help people sort of understand how to do through AV Does What?
I mean, I like crafts that are approachable because I meet so many people who are, hey, I'm not creative like you. And they're already doing like negative self-talk. And it's just like, could you not? Right? Like, we want you to be empowered enough to do things yourself. And I love upcycling. So finding things on the curb, giving it a little razzle dazzle and making it to something else, or just cleaning it up. Those are some of my favorite crafts. But in terms of like the energy of DIY, I like when people feel empowered enough to try something themselves, whether it's crocheting, knitting, even though those are two things I actually don't do, but embroidery, glass etching. Like, there's so many different crafts that you can work on. And even if you try a craft and you're like, well, this didn't really work out, it's so broad, you can find another one. So yeah, just keeping that creative energy going.
I love it. And so, be sure to check out her website. And AV, please share your website for the audience.
avdoeswhat.com. And also, I'm AV Does What everywhere. All social media platforms. A as in always, V as in victorious, and Does What. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you go and check it out, just as she's mentioning, and she's talking about all these different forms of crafts and the ability to upcycle different things, you'll see a slew of those on there. Right. And so there's no medium, there's nothing that's out there that I don't think that she has never tried. Right. Like, she does it all. So it's one of those things where it's very interesting to kind of experience and see that somebody has just embraced the ability to, just figure out, how do I go about upcycling, creating something out of this thing that almost others would not consider as anything, and then recreating it into something that's absolutely beautiful, absolutely useful. And there's a whole entire stream of individuals that are out there that are interested in learning that. So if you're not familiar with the crafts world, definitely check that out. And so I think your creativity, your passion to just generate something out of seemingly nothing is also a part of what generated University of Dope. So talk a little bit about University of Dope and the genesis behind that.
Well, with University of Dope, my business partner, Marion, who we also went to undergrad together. Yeah.
Shout outs.
Yeah. Shout out to Pep Squad, right? Me and her, we were in Brooklyn. She came to visit me in Brooklyn. We went to go out to eat. And I don't know if anyone remembers the show Cash Cab. Well, there was a game show called Cash Cab. And she would always ask, like, man, like, are we gonna get in a cash cab? It's like, no, cash cabs do not come to Brooklyn, right? Like, that's like, the show is not, it doesn't happen, right? But I thought, I'm like, wouldn't it be crazy if one of the questions were name all the members of En Vogue, right? Like, so this is where the original thought really came. And we were like, no, there's too many of them. We don't know them. It's just Dawn, right? It's Dawn and them. and maybe like a Terry. Is there a Terry? Yes. So then on top of that thought, since we figured we would have been put out the cash cab because of that, said, well, what if I asked her, what if you were asked to name all the members of the Wu-Tang Clan? And I said, could you do it? And she said, yeah. I said, well, could you do it if you were drunk? Right? If you've been drinking. And she said, yes. I didn't believe her. I still don't believe her. We went, we went back to my house, and we Googled Wu-Tang drinking game because we figured the RZA had, like, they have cartoons and action figures. So of course they already had this. So we wanted to buy it and it didn't exist. So we made it up. So we are our own target audience. And that's how University of Dope was born,
I
because
love
I
it.
asked her if she can name all the members of the Wu-Tang Clan while under the influence.
Okay, okay. And so as you think about sort of that initial genesis of conversation and what led to y'all doing the research to see if something was out there and it wasn't there, how did you really proceed from this being an idea and then beginning to write things on paper to actually generating and creating a game?
It's a lot of troubleshooting because neither one of us went to school for gaming. Neither. I don't even know how to play spades. Spoiler alert, right? So I
All
know,
right,
but it's fun.
I gotta go.
It's
We're gonna end
cool.
this show right now. I can't
That's
believe you don't know how to
fine.
play
I
spades.
don't. I don't. We Jamaican. Like, dominoes. That's it. No one in my family knows how to play spades. Like, this is not a thing.
All right, okay. I'm gonna let you
So
slide, and next time I see you, we're gonna actually learn how to play spades.
I'm over learning how to play spades. I've given up, but I appreciate it. I thank you for your offer. I have University of Dope now. I'm bringing the vibe. You can play spades like on the
Oh, swear.
after. Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
fair enough.
So, like I said, we weren't necessarily in the gaming industry, right? We were just two girls that like hip hop, and like we want this game, and that's kind of like how it started. And we were making up questions, and we didn't want it to be a trivia game, so we thought, oh, if it's majority rules, right, the answers would always change because her and I, just like how everyone else who plays and they have their debates, her and I have debates all the time. So so it's like, okay, so if it's majority rules, the answers will change depending on who you're playing with. And when we started, we had a whole spreadsheet of rappers that we would like to include. And and also kind of like a marker how many times we call it like the U-Dope algorithm. Like there's only so many times we can add Biggie in here. So we have, or there's only so many times that we can do like M or Tupac or whoever else. So it's like that whole system. But when we first had it on a spreadsheet, we had a friend of mine kind of like, hey, come through. We're going to just like test it out on a spreadsheet. And he's a hip hop head, like, and he was from like overseas too. So he's like one of those who like literally like reads it like books, right? And we realized it was too hard. Like he was having a great time, but we're like, we want to sell this game. Like it's not flashcards. This is a drinking game, right?
Right, right.
we're not trying to get.
You're
I
not
mean, we're
studying
not
for a PhD in hip hop.
exactly like we're not opposed to being contracted by the Department of Education, but that was not our first thought coming out of this, right?
Yep.
So we've had to like test the game and have people play it, and see how people play it in other like age groups, and seeing like, okay, so we can tell people, all right, this is a good like age group for this, and this works best in this area, and knowing like, okay, maybe we need to add more people from different different regions just to give it a little bit more diversity. But we do plan on coming out with regional packs to add to that because we're Northeasterners and I'm a New Yorker, so it's like it's gonna have its
Has that
slight
slant to it.
bias, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you really started hitting the ground and taking that idea from the phase and point where it was just a fun idea after y'all had been out on the town to actually beginning to draft out the different questions and some of the different things that people could be asked or shared, to beginning to test it in different markets and actually
Mhm.
see, all right, what are people saying? How are they responding to it? What could we tweak? But still, how did you get from that point to actually creating the game? So when I say creating the game, meaning
Uh-huh.
how did you find a place to actually start printing the stuff? How did you decide how it was going to be shaped? If you take a look over my shoulder, you'll see I have the OG card deck. And
Hmm.
I know that it's gone through some iterations now, but would just love to understand what led to the creation of that card deck.
Well, I will say it's a lot of playing to the strengths of your team, right? So Marion does the operations. So she looks for the manufacturer. She looks for the quality of, like, she can like feel the card and it's like, no, this, it's like card science now, right? She knows like how it flips and feels. She does all of that. And I do the press. I do the social media. And we all pull together to create questions. Of course, when they get a little bit more outrageous, it's me because I'm just an outrageous person. So that is those are our strengths. And since the beginning, it was me, Marion, and another friend of ours named Martina, and she is our graphic designer. So all of the design elements that you see, those are all her, and we all brainstormed together. And when we first were beginning this, I locked us, all three of us, in a room, and it was like, this is what we're doing today. All right. And it was very much like, like in a room, the room had a bathroom attached and there was like an exit. Right. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to figure this out. And before we decided university because we went to college together. So that's the university part. Also, our company is named Vance Hall. And if you know, right? Vance Hall is the dorm where we met at. So we wanted people, when they played our game, because I'm good at like branding. So we wanted when people played our game to, that feeling you had like your sophomore year, regardless of whatever era you went to school in your sophomore year in college, wherever you were, we wanted you to feel that fun that you had sophomore year, that feeling. Because freshman, you might have had some angst. Junior and senior, you're thinking about internship in the future. Sophomore year, you have your feet on the ground. You are happy. You are, well, I can't say everybody's happy, but generally you're happy and you're comfortable and you're just having fun with your friends. That's how we wanted people to feel. Between that or wherever you were when T-Pain first came out. So that's how we wanted you to feel. So for those of you like, I didn't go to college. So where were you when Buy You a Drink was popping? That feeling, that's what we want.
I love it. I love it. All right. So you were able to find and identify, a manufacturer, started producing it. You spoke about being really good at branding. How did you start marketing? How did you start getting the word out for the game?
So fortunately, because of things I was already doing with AV Does What, by the time we started University of Dope, AV Does What was about 3 to 4 years old. So I already had some connections with press. I already was meeting people because of various things. It's like, oh, I have this thing. Can you write about it? And self-promotion, people are like, oh, people who may not have been interested in DIY, they're like, but I like hip hop and this card game seems cool. So that's kind of like how that went in the beginnings of, like press and such like that.
Okay. So in as you reflect and think about the journey that y'all have been on thus far with University of Dope, what is the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome as you reflect on that?
For me, the second year, our first year was great. The second year, I hit like a mean bout of depression, right? And that will take you out. That will take you out. We always talk about like mental health and things like that. And things around me were going very well. And it was like almost like crashing in a sense where you feel depressed and you're going to just watch these things fail, right? You're going to just literally like you're looking out the window, like kids playing outside or something like that. Yeah. So that was a very difficult time for both businesses because people would want to reach out and want to do things. And I'm just like, I guess, right? And that is, it is unfortunate, but that was, I think, for me, the biggest obstacle. Yeah.
In how did you overcome it? In terms
Therapy.
Of just therapy.
Yeah. Go sit in somebody's chair. That is the word of the day. I am pro therapy. I think everyone needs to sit in somebody's chair at some point, to keep yourself sharp. I still go now and I'm way beyond it because this was years ago. So this is about like 4 years ago now, but you always have to keep yourself sharp because as you're elevating, you're going to reach new successes and new challenges. Yeah. And who knows what those challenges could bring, but you just want to be prepared when you get there because it's coming, So you got to just keep on keeping on.
Yeah. So what you're hearing, and I hope you're all really reflecting on some of the words of wisdom that are coming forward from AV, is ensuring that, you protect your mental health. And so if you recognize that something is off or you're not feeling right, seek out that professional help to be able to work through that. And you heard it, right? Things were in a really good place. Things were going smoothly. So sometimes it's recognizing where you personally have these things that are going on and being able to say, okay, I need to take a moment, recalibrate for myself so I can come back into this and really focus and hunker down. And that is okay, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Make certain, again, you're looking out for your mental. I appreciate you for sharing and being so transparent with that, AV.
No problem.
As you reflect on either AV Does What or University of Dope, can you share some of the sacrifices that you've had to make to establish and sort of build up your businesses?
I think the biggest sacrifice I've had to make is I haven't had the chance to travel as much. I used to travel way more, like before University of Dope happened. And just, you want to maintain, I guess, like your finances and just time, right? So I think those might have been like my biggest sacrifices. I've always freelanced, and I mean, I don't have children, or so certain. I don't want to call them liabilities because I don't want anyone to like cancel you for calling people's kids liabilities. But no, it's just certain responsibilities. There you go. Let me clean
Thank
that
you.
up. There's certain responsibilities that I don't have. So I can balance certain things that maybe your audience may have to balance, right? But making sure my mental health was just like the most important thing. So anything else, the sacrifices were kind of like light in a sense. But not as I think about it, I think it's more so like not traveling as much. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I sort of shared earlier with the audience what the OG decks look like. Did
Mm-hmm.
you want to reflect and share sort of what they look like today?
Pow,
Bomb.
pow, pow. Yeah. This is
And
our deck.
what led to the revamping and recreation of it?
Well, the quarantine, the pandemic, we wanted to we were beginning to rebrand because we wanted something better, something new, and all of those things. But ironically, right when we decided to start doing that, they were like, "Hey, we're not shipping anything from overseas anymore."
Mm,
So, but what we had to pivot, and I know that was a really heavy buzzword in 2020, but we did have to pivot, and we created the University of Dope game show, and that blew a lot of things out of the water for us. So it's a virtual game show, and people, they're like, there's contestants on the screen, and we stream to our Facebook and our YouTube, and people can get the questions on their phone so you can play at home against the people who are on the screen. And it's formatted just like the game, but just in a virtual Jeopardy style kind of thing.
okay,
And
so Tama, I didn't even really know about this. So is this a service that you and the team are putting out there where people can hire you to come in and do this game? Is that what
that came from that.
okay.
So for first, when we first started, it was literally just we couldn't do game nights anymore. We used to do game nights all over the city, and nobody's meeting up for game nights. You can't go anywhere because of quarantine, but
Right.
we still have a business and we need to sell these games. So the game show was essentially press for us,
Got it.
content marketing, and
Got it.
then
So it was like a TV show. You tune into it, you're able to
yes.
watch and
And
enjoy
then you're
kind of what's
able,
going on.
and you know what's going on for those who never even played the game. They're like, oh, I can play this game at home, and we would sell the game. So it started off as content marketing, but it expanded into providing a service. So we've done for corporate events like Time Magazine, Sony, Bleacher Report, tons of private events. So that created a whole new revenue stream for us from that.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. And so are you still engaged in that? And if people
Yes.
are interested, okay,
Yes.
awesome. So
we and Black History Month, right? Like, get your boss to pay for it,
I love it. I love it. So if people are interested, right, they work somewhere in general, or they want to set it up for their friends group or family group, whatever it may be, how would they go about setting that up with you and your team?
Events at universityofdope.com.
All right. So
Just
you
an
heard it.
email.
Events at universityofdope.com. I'll make sure and I drop that into the description for the show as well, so you can reference it there later on.
Yes.
All right, dope. So what's the vision for the future, right? As you sit back and reflect upon You shared, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing the motivation in terms of your father really being able to um, help you understand what it means to work with your hands, and how it really led to you just really being able to look at anything and figure out how you make something out of it, right?
Mhm.
Where do you see the vision of AV Does What and the game going from here, where it's at currently?
Okay, well, AB does what I had made the decision late 2021 to get into acting, actually. Yeah, acting and hosting. I mean, I do hosting anyway, but with those opportunities like with HGTV, they came to me. I know that sounds very like humble brag, but I didn't
But
apply
it's a
for that.
reality, right?
They came to me, and I'm like, okay, so what would this look like if I went after certain opportunities? And how do I go about that? So I've been speaking to people that I know who do the whole audition stuff and casting. So they've been helping me to, figure it out. And they're like, yeah, you kind of have like a head, uh, you kind of have a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a head start. There you go. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
a head start because I have a reel and all of those things. But I love like Kiki Palmer's career, right? Steve Harvey's career. Like these are great careers. Ryan Seacrest, and they show up being themselves. I mean, Ryan and Steve don't necessarily act as much, but I am a funny person, so I was like, I want to see like what don't you do, AV? And it's like, let's figure it out. After this, I can have an Emmy. Who knows, right? That's the goal.
Speaking in the being,
Having an
speaking
Emmy
in the being.
is having an Emmy and a lake house is definitely my one of two of my goals. So
Yeah.
that's where I want to go into, and more producing lifestyle content, because there are so many, being in the lifestyle content space, there are a lot of voices that are not, readily accessible. And this is not even just like race based, right? Like if you think of the home improvement shows, they're usually homeowners. What about the people who rent and they want to have a better living situation? Or what about travel shows and people who are not able bodied? How do they travel? So I want to get into producing, but this is kind of like the main focus. But that is like the overarching ideas for AB Does What. Kind of like how Debbie Allen's career is. Like she just does what she wants. Like Debbie Allen wakes up and says, "This one, you know what? I want to dance with the president," and that's what she does. And then she's like, "I want to direct episodes of Scandal," and that's what she does. She wants to have a show
Yeah.
with LL Cool J. That's what she does. She does what she wants. And then on top
Yeah.
of
So
it, she's Felicia Rashad's sister. Like she gets to do what she wants.
hilarious. If y'all recall at the top of the show, I really emphasized how much AV is the sort of individual who takes vision and she just goes after it, right? A big part of what you're hearing in terms of her journey and how it's evolved, and where she wants to continue going has been her consistency, right? Her consistency to develop the content that she's putting out there around AV Does What, led to, as you heard from her, the ability for HGTV to reach out to her because they saw all that stuff that she was doing in a vein that she was passionate about. So
Mm-hmm.
just start, get into it. And I'll be very transparent with my own personal experience. This show has been something that's been over 5 years in the making. And I have just sat on it for a long, long time. AV and I actually spoke 5 years ago to really talk about some of these different things that she's doing now and she has been doing over that course of time. And you see how much her trajectory has just taken off, and it continues to open doors for her. And the same can happen for you. The ability to begin creating, begin building, begin pursuing your passions in whatever way that means for you. As you start doing it, people take notice, and that will help you catapult to where you're trying to get to and even open doors you never even thought about before.
Mm-hmm.
So, AV, thank you so much for being able to share that. We're going to transition now into the 5 minute hustle.
All right.
So, want to be able, what was that?
I said, all right.
All right. So I want to be able to talk to you about a few different things that our listeners will be able to take nuggets of wisdom away from that. So what do you think for you? And I struggle, just trying to think of a response for you, but hopefully you have one. What do you think for you initially held you back from becoming an entrepreneur?
Um, I Nothing really. It was just nothing. It was, it's about, for me, it's about being intentional. So when I was like 12, I made the decision I never wanted to wear a suit to work. Like that was just my thought. Whatever was going to happen after that, that's what was going to happen. And I haven't. right? So, but of course, as you get older, you get more mature with your thoughts and things like that. But yeah, nothing really stopped me. I just knew it's what I wanted to do, and that's it, really. And
I
yeah.
love it. I love it. So yeah, what you're hearing from her is that she's always been focused on pursuing whatever it was that she was interested in sort of working towards, right? What's the best business advice you've ever received?
I don't know if it's necessarily business advice, but it inspires me, and that's Nike. Just do it. Just do it. People ask about like, just do it. Just do it. There is no situation where, especially with business, where just do it doesn't apply. Because even if it's gonna fail, you have to do it so you know it fails. And you just described about sitting on an idea for 5 years. Before we were starting University of Dope, we sat on it. We thought of the idea and we sat on it for months. And then, unfortunately, Marion's cousin passed away. He went to Central as well, and he was really like interested about it. So it kind of put the fire under us, and then we got it done in maybe like 3 months. So it took a year to date, like the idea for the box in hand, like the prototype. But just do it, because we were
Just
going to
do
sit
it.
on it. We both had, respective careers that we could have just done and stayed doing that, but we didn't want the idea to go to waste. So
I
just do
love
it.
it. I love it. And this is thematically, just spot on with what you've been hearing from AV since the top. What business book, magazine, podcast, etc., that you have in your mind that you think has helped you to get to where you're at, that you think would be beneficial for others to tap into as well?
There's moguls that I look to that I like, and I just watch their moves. So Martha Stewart, of course. There's Oprah, of course, and then there's Sir Richard Branson. Um, for those of you who don't know him, creator of Virgin, everything. And with him, what I love is that he is out of the box thinker. He's one of those like, I want to do it, I'm going to do it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I want to fly to space. I know people are feeling kind of weird about flying to space now, but when he first said it, it sounded cool, right? Now, when Bezos is doing it, it's like, oh, could you not be a villain? But but with Sherman Richard Branson, it was like, oh man, this guy is cool. He wants to fly to
Yeah,
space. So that, like, with him and just doing different things. So that's what I do. But in terms of like more tangible resources, there's Business Insider. I read more stuff about influencer marketing. So there's a resource that I use called later.com that is a scheduling app for Instagram and Facebook, but they also have a lot of articles to talk about influencer marketing for those who may be interested in participating or hiring influencers. So
run that one more time. What is it called?
later.com.
Later.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Like later,
awesome.
like see you later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my last question was really around a favorite online tool, application, or internet resource. And
Mm-hmm.
later.com sounds like a really good one because you said it both helps you in terms of your business with being able to work across multiple platforms, and it provides great insights to you. Are there any others that you'd like to share with the masses?
That I'm thinking off the top of my head, no, I can't think of one. Yeah. Like I said, I just look at people. I like to mirror what they're doing and kind of like see what they did. Like books are cool, but you made this move today. I want to see how, let me kind of backtrack and see how you got there by actually
Dig it.
watching people's careers that I would like to have.
Dig it. So let me back into it and find a different one then. As you think about the stuff you produce for AV Does What,
Mm-hmm.
how do you know what's hot, what's next, what your audience would love to see, so that you're putting out content that people are truly tapping into, leveraging, and really gaining the insights that they seek to come from?
Pinterest.
Pinterest.
Pinterest is good to look up things, and also because everyone doesn't use Pinterest as the service, but they do at the beginning of the year, like the same time when Pantone comes out with their color of the year, Pinterest comes out with different trends, and those are the trends people see not only in crafts but just different things in lifestyle. And they've been spot on for like the last couple of years on ideas and moods that the country and different parts of the world will kind of be like invested in. So you can kind of tailor your business to reflect those moods people are into. Because like there was a time where everyone's into like baking bread because we're all in the house. So you know,
I still got some packets of yeast I haven't used
yet. So yeah, so they do a
yet.
lot of research with that. So their Pinterest trends are really, like I said, spot on.
Okay. All right. AV, I really appreciate one, the energy with which you show up with, the transparency that you've really shown our listeners today. And then just that mentality of not fearing and just going after it, as you so eloquently put, you know, Nike's quote of just do it.
Just do it.
And so thank you for constantly being consistent with that and modeling that in so many different ways. In both your personal life and your business life. I have a lot of respect, time, and energy for you because of it. Do you have any words of closing that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Just do it. I don't want to, like, this is about execution. There's so many ideas that we have and you're just overthinking. Stop overthinking. Just do it. So for instance, this is what I will leave you all, right? My nephew is 11 years old and he has 1,300 followers on TikTok. My nephew, he wears a mask and he doesn't even speak. He just creates the content, right? And I'm like, I'm going to just do it. Because he's 11. And what's funny is when I talk about him saying that, the post, people react to the post. So I'm like, I'm getting followers just talking about you. You're like a legend. He's an icon living, right? He just does it. And then he has like a squad. It's crazy. And he told them like, oh yeah, you know, he even tell them because he doesn't speak on there. He said, if I get to 2K, well, when I get to 2K, I'll do a voice reveal. A voice reveal? The audacity. And I think the audacity is hereditary, so I'm glad I'm doing my part in the village. So yeah, have the audacity of my nephew, the boldness. And there's people in the comments like, we got to get to 2K, you know, because they want to hear his voice. He can speak Arabic. They don't even know. They know nothing.
I love it.
But just do it. And he's just doing it.
I really appreciate you again. Thank you so much. We're all rooting for you to get your Emmy, as you so shared us us your goals. Thank you again for your time and creating a space for us.
I appreciate you all, and I appreciate you. Hearts.
What's up, Legacy Hustlers? I hope your cup is overflowing with inspiration, motivation, and knowledge after listening to our guests today. And if it was, don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, comment, and share with your friends so we can continue to grow the base of listeners. Shout outs to Chris from Sideline Records for always producing an amazing episode. Jonathan Leonard, we see you. Thank you for the intro music. And to our listeners, until the next time we connect, please don't get in your own way in the pursuit of your dreams.